Hey there, welcome. Today I want to talk about how creativity is a form of spirituality, but it's probably one of the most accessible forms this day and age. Um, there are stories of Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma in ancient Hinduism. Vishnu being the portion of God or the deity that sustains the universe, keeps it functioning. Shiva is the one that dissolves the universe, transforms it, changes it, or destroys it. And then Brahma is the one that creates, brings it into being, into manifestation, creates life. And there are multiple stories about how Brahma lied or cheated or did bad things, and so Brahma's been punished by Shiva, and thus nobody worships Brahma. And this is kind of true. There are countless Shiva and Vishnu oriented temples, Vaishnava temples, Shaivite temples, Shakta temples, almost very, very, very few Brahma temples in India. And it's this very interesting phenomena how these stories, these myths, which are hard to ascertain how truthful they are about Earth, like reality itself, they manifested a religion, or they influenced the manifestation of a religion where literally we have a trinity, a trimurti, and one of the three is just straight up pretty much ignored. I think it's a very interesting phenomena because that shows the effect of myth and story and maybe even realization of higher powers, how it can affect our modern world. But also, I think there's a certain balancing act happening in the world right now. I think we are inadvertently worshiping what Brahma represents. Maybe because this force has been so subjugated or pushed aside or mistrusted. So the Brahma archetype, the essence of Brahma, to create, to be creative, to bring forth, really it is known in Hinduism that it's all one God. Some say it's Shiva, some say it's Vishnu, but most realize it's just one. It's just the infinite, and it's basically nameless. It's not really. These are just representations. These are manifestations of God, but they're not. God is never limited by any of these. And Brahma is not really talked about. Param Brahma is, or Brahman is talked about, but this is usually a little different. It's just this is the one God, but Brahma is also part of that trinity. And some people worship the trinity. They worship Trimurti, this three-headed God of Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma. But I wanted to mention it because we have so much creativity going on in the world. It is so addictive, it is so interesting, it's so entertaining. It is the amount of content, the amount of art, the amount of things people made, whether it's a show, a song, an item, a sculpture, a product, even just toilet paper, the amount of things humans have created. It's almost as if we are in this phase of excess creation, and I think it shows how we idealize the essence of Brahma, of creativity, of creation, but then we don't necessarily appreciate the Shiva of it all, the dissolution, the change, the death, the transformation, the loss. And we only access that maintaining consciousness, Vishnu, because we're so attached to our creations. We're so attached to our house and our car and our lives and our materials. We're so attached to our entertainment and recreation and our vacations. All involve creativity, creations from others, created tools and vehicles from others. There's very few things we do that are earnestly enjoyable to us that involve some level of transformation, change, letting go, and then only a few recreations or pleasures involve maintaining what we have. Usually that's also just we begrudgingly maintain our comforts, and we just would rather have them there forever and not have to do the labor of maintaining them. So we're kind of in this interesting world of excess creation. I feel it's a balancing act of humans being subjugated into slavery, into peasantry, into all sorts of different oppressed lifestyles from monarchs and amoral people in power that were able to control people in a different way than they do now because of a lack of tools, a lack of understanding in the average population. And so we want to create, we want to be the creator God, we want to be the being that puts forth new things into the world, that creates happiness, that creates joy and serenity and pleasure. And we want that for ourselves too. We want people to create so that we can experience those things too. And very few people want to maintain by cleaning the house and doing the dishes and, oiling the bearings. And very few people want to destroy all that and be with nothing to see what transformations can arise. So I wanted to mention this story, this myth, and how we kind of are in this pinnacle on planet Earth of worshiping Brahma inadvertently in a way, and how it's coming to a close. It's coming to a point where we are destroying the environment, we are destroying other animal lives, we're destroying bacterial and mycelial life in the soil, which is inadvertently affecting our food supplies. It's affecting health of different populations who basically get affected by direct contact with pollution and deforestation and overfishing or over consuming animal products. And so the agriculture is just destroying the environment, whether it's with swaths of monoculture farms and pesticides and fossil fuels, or the pollution and runoff of animal agriculture into water sources, into the ocean. There's a lot. You look it up, it's like terrifying. It's not the only thing happening on planet Earth. There are good things happening too. So it's good to have a wide perspective, because otherwise it's daunting. But this is because we're so attached to creating things and selling those things to create more things and create more pleasure in our lives, to create new experiences, rather than just sitting with what is, and then even more so sitting with the falling away of those things. But there is a spirituality in creativity. And there's a way of creating that we connect with the more than human world, the ecosystems and the flora, the fauna, the bacteria, the inorganic matter, and we find a harmony. Older cultures tried different ways to find a harmony with the interconnected world we're a part of with planet Earth, and they had ways that are more or less good, better than what we are doing now. But they're not the only ways. We can create new ways. We can create new ways with our technology, with our tools, with our modern scientific understanding that proves to be more effective than, imagination, fantasy, myth for most people. And this is where creativity becomes divine, Because when you realize that there's no separation between Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva, so maintaining, creating, and destroying, it's all just the flow of infinity. Things seem to rise and fall, but really it's all just the fluidity of a boundless reality that can do anything and be anything, even if it's not, doesn't seem that way because it looks like it's on a time schedule. That's just from our limited perception and memory and, you know, biological consciousness, let's say. So if we want to access that unity, that non-dual presence of this entire reality, creativity becomes a spiritual practice. We create with recycled ingredients. We create moments of joy and reflection, whether it's through music or film or, you know, exhibitions and shows and painting. But we also create new ways of doing all these things, you know, where we're not like buying a guitar with ebony wood from a deforested rainforest. We're not creating a hyper, you know, edited film where we had to use like literally $300,000 worth of technology that impacted the world in all sorts of ways due to resource extraction and foreign labor, to just like have these very pretty scenes. You know, there's this transformation of consciousness. We need to create the spaces to learn how to enjoy transformation. The creativity and the death or the change must mix. And this is a spiritual act. This is a spiritual process because it involves us intuitively and viscerally linking in with our true self, with the true nature of enlightenment and love and God and truth. When we do this, we'll find a lot of joy. And it's something the spiritual paths have been missing, because although there are creative pursuits in various traditional religions, you know, calligraphy in Zen, mandala creation in, you know, Tibetan Buddhism, you know, certain levels of song and dance in Hinduism, they're very limited, they're very bound. There's a lot of dogma, a lot of rigidity, and this maintenance is almost like, this is, you see the Vishnu Shiva of it all, the maintaining, the rotund, but then also the transformation, decay, let go, detach. But then the creation is often set aside, it's not balanced. And so there's a middle ground where we do create joy, we create pleasure, we create good emotions, we create beauty and love. And at the same time, we learn how to maintain that healthy, balanced life and learn how to detach from things causing suffering, detach from things limiting us. And when we have that creativity balancing out that whole process, we are going to experience both a good life and a more honest life, not repressing and oppressing our true nature out of ideas and concepts of discipline and spirituality, but at the same time creating paths that discipline becomes both enjoyable and possible, sustainable. Because it doesn't mean we don't have discipline, it just means we find ways to make that ever more accurate to truth and to love. This comes up because I absorb a lot of content regarding Buddhism, Hinduism, non-duality, and it leans heavily into high contemplation, total detachment, renunciation, total acceptance, and maintenance, you know, meditation, like these, you know, these maintained habits that are seen as divine or helpful are needed for spiritual growth or spiritual realization. But there's very little creativity. There's very little love of the unknown childlike pleasure, very little appreciation of even the bodily pleasures. Sometimes it's like very like bodily pleasures can happen, it's all fine, it's all God, but then at the same time, like, don't get attached, completely renounce yourself. There's very little of like, what if we can find God through creating new experiences that don't cause suffering, that don't wrap around limited concepts, limited worldviews, limited perception. And I think we find this inescapable Shakti, which I've talked about in the past, where there's nothing we can do. Like, we are going to want to eat the cookie. We're going to want to enjoy the orgasm of the body. We're going to want to go swim and go to the beach and go on hikes and enjoy the beauty of flowers and mountains. We're going to want to have company and laughter. We're going to want to play games or watch movies. You know, like, there's no way that we can escape the presence of God in creativity, which is so big, even excessive at this point in human history. So why reject it? But at the same time, why reject transformation? Why reject detachment? It's a weird, it's not so black and white. It's not like heads and tails. It's not, you know, yin and yang even. It's already one. The creativity and the dissolution and the maintenance of it all. It's already one thing. These three, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, aren't even separate categories. They all represent just parts of existence, and there's infinitely more parts than those three. But if we don't embrace them all in a wholehearted sense with present awareness, we aren't really going to truly access the infinite. And so that's why I made this video, because creativity comes to me and I am drawn to creativity. So is, you know, the people around me. But it's just usually so separate from spirituality. It's so separate from understanding God and infinity. You can find it maybe in the psychedelic realm, psychedelic art. But even then, there's there's an egregor of commonality that doesn't dissolve and make bridges towards other things in life. So thank you so much for watching. Enjoy creativity and enjoy transformation. Om Sai Ram.